right, for this edition of Sojourners Along the Way, we are actually going to be on 3 locations. Obviously here in the studio, you can see I have 2 guests with me, but we also are going to travel to the farmer's market and someplace else. So you'll have to keep tuned to find out where that someplace else is. It's going to be fun, I'll tell you that. And I don't know if Chelsea looks familiar to you or not, and then her sidekick is Megan. If you go to the farmer's market, you should be familiar with them. And Chelsea right now at this recording is inside because we're having winter here. At least we're having cold weather. But I like it when she has her purple truck outside because that means she has a whole array of foods available and you will find them to be delicious. And because of that, I wanted to have Chelsea come and to talk about Chelsea's Real Food. If you had the opportunity in the fall, there was a magazine, Backdrop magazine, and she's on the front cover. This is called Local Chef Finds What Drives Her. And if you notice, she has the same bandana on in this picture.
Yep.
And that is her trademark, at least one of them. The other trademark is the delicious food. So, Chelsea, please tell us, how did you get started?
Well, it's a long story.
Okay.
I opened this version of my business after a number of different iterations in my life of cooking. So I started out just as a child cooking with my parents. I had a lot of different food allergies, and so we really mostly couldn't go out to eat, and so we'd spent a lot of time cooking at home, and specifically baking. I always just had so much fun playing in the kitchen growing up, and my mama would let me just experiment. We'd get out all the different flours and everything, and I would make all these crazy mixtures, right? Even then, I didn't want to follow recipes, and so I'd say, I'm going to make muffins, and I had no idea how to make muffins. And so I'd make these, little banana bricks or whatever, and my mom would always eat them, and she'd say, "Woo!" And she'd chew it, and she'd eat the whole thing, and she'd say, "Thank you." And I learned, right? It was great. And then my dad taught me how to bake bread. My mom taught me how to make soup and the Thanksgiving turkey. My mom was more into the savory and the cooking, and my dad was more into the breads and pies. Well, my dad was into breads and pies and steak. So I learned how to cook a really good steak from my dad. But through my life, I've tried all kinds of different dietary things, and I have been vegan for multiple years in different time periods. I've found for me in my body eating some good quality animal protein works best for me. I don't claim that's true for everybody. Okay. So I do eat the occasional, good local pasture raised steak. I eat my beans and veggies too, right? And then when I was in high school, I was lucky enough to get an internship at a local Italian restaurant. And so that was really great. It was this Italian bistro in Findlay, Ohio, so up in Northwest Ohio. They were called the Bistro on Main. And it was this long, narrow railroad kitchen, I guess rather similar to a food truck, but a little bit longer, a little bit wider, but not by much. It was this very narrow space. And they had all their different stations, and I got to spend a little bit of time working in each station in the kitchen. Mostly they had me working on the salads and the dessert platings and helping make the soup and whatnot. And I learned so much about basically how restaurants work and cooking techniques and whatnot. And that culminated in me getting to make their nightly special for one night. And I was in charge of the special. And that was so exciting to me. And I think I was hooked at that point. It was so cool to have people come into their restaurant and order my food and get to put it on the plate for them. I just loved it. And So that turned into a job, of course. We all liked each other. And I worked there until I graduated from high school and then went on to Hocking College. And one of the other things I love to do, actually, is massage therapy. So when I went to Hocking College, I did not go through the culinary program. I went through the massage therapy program. And the reason for that was, at that point, Hocking College was not focusing on local food and whole foods. And I knew even then that I wanted specifically to learn more about cooking for people with dietary needs and using whole food ingredients, sourcing locally, all of that, like the health food thing. And that's not what culinary schools are teaching.
Okay.
So,
well, I need to interject something.
Sure.
One of the reasons I wanted to have Chelsea come is, first off, the food is delicious. But also, you know that Sojourners has focused on health issues. I'm sure there are some people that go, I don't cook. So how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to get this good food? This is the reason I wanted to have Chelsea and Megan come, so you can see there is a way to do that. Why don't we give the contact information, and then Megan, I'd like you to tell us how you got involved with Chelsea, okay?
my full name is Chelsea Hindenach, and the business is Chelsea's Real Food. We are an LLC.
What's LLC?
LLC is Limited Liability Corporation.
Okay.
Fancy. That means I'm all officially licensed and the business is separate from my personal world, is basically what that means.
Okay.
It's insurance stuff, basically.
Okay.
But anyway, for questions, comments, special orders, whatnot, I can be called or texted at 419-957-3802. That's a cell number. You'll notice it's not a local number. I came to Athens in 2001 and just kept the same number. So you could also email me at yogachelsea@gmail.com. It's YOGACHELSEA@gmail.com. And we have a Facebook page. You could like us on Facebook. You just look up Chelsea's Real Food, and you'll find us there.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Megan, how did you get started?
Well, I actually experienced Chelsea and her cooking long before I had ever actually moved to Athens. I've only lived here for a year and a half. But I'd had her cooking. Her food truck does a lot of festivals, and I'd had her cooking at both the Nelsonville Music Festival and the Pawpaw Festival, which I had traveled to. And a lot of our customers have this experience that we see where they're so grateful to be able to have not only something fresh and healthy and local, but for people with dietary restrictions like myself, I often go to these things thinking I'm not going to be able to be fed at all. And here's Chelsea with a whole kitchen full of a full menu that I'm not allergic to. You know, which is amazing. And then I came to Athens. I decided to move down here to break a little deeper into the local food economy, is what I'll call it. In my long-term life goals, would like to be a farmer, and I'm working on several farms. So Chelsea's business is important to me way more than just a job. For one thing, that this food is available for people with severe dietary restrictions, or anyone who it's important to them, you know, to not eat certain things or to have a certain type of sourcing. But also, because she sources locally from a lot of the farmers, especially vegetables and meats, the microeconomy of Athens, the food economy here, continues to thrive because we all support each other. And that's really important to me. It's like, she took me out to J.B. King's farm for the first time because she said, we got to go get some meat today.
Yep.
Right? And this is where we get it. And, we know all the farmers at the market by name because we don't just sell next to them, we buy their food and cook it. And so as someone who wants to be a successful farmer right here in Athens in the future, her business really ties that all together. It connects a lot of the food to the eaters, especially, like you said, not everyone knows how to cook what they want to be eating. So here we have Chelsea's Real Food.
Yeah.
Right now, they are inside, but she has baked goods. And
Yep.
they're good things. But when the weather gets nice and the farmers go back outside, you'll see this big purple truck. That's Chelsea's truck, and it is a mobile, licensed commercial kitchen. If you're outside of Athens County, you are most welcome. I've invited you to come for other things. This is something I definitely would invite you to come to, is the farmer's market and the big purple truck, Chelsea's Real Food. So, now, I said that later you're going to be teaching me something, and I wanted to ask you, if someone that is watching this program, if they are interested in learning to do something, would you teach a class, and what would you do?
Yeah, I certainly would. That's something I've done, and that's a fun thing. I like to teach people and get together with people and cook.
So let me put in a plug. This is going to air during the cold weather months for the first time on Time Warner Network. Now's the time. Call Chelsea. And what was that number?
419-957-3802.
And you also said we could like you on Facebook.
Yep.
How do we do that?
If you are on Facebook, you have to have an account on Facebook to do that. But then you just look up Chelsea's Real Food.
So Chelsea's Real
find
Food
it.
is the key. And also give us your email again, please.
yogachelsea@gmail.com.
Okay.
So back to the story of the business. So I went through the massage therapy program. Then after that, I was licensed and working doing massage, and I wanted some other alternate income, and I was able to get a job at the Village Bakery and Cafe in Athens. And for those of you who are familiar with the Village Bakery, they're awesome.
Yes.
And Bob and Christine worked together. They really taught me so much about the local food economy and local food sourcing, and I learned so much in my time there. And I was working in the kitchen and helping develop the daily specials and whatnot for 5 years, I believe. I was in that space. Then my life rearranged a bit, and I needed to do something else. So then I became a personal chef. And for 3 years, I was a personal chef mostly for one family exclusively. And it was a family of 5, and they had a lot of specific dietary needs, which were changing. They had a lot of allergy issues that they were trying to figure out. So, and I worked with them. I jokingly say as wife number 2, right? Because I would help with the childcare and whatnot, as well as cooking the vast majority of their food. And that was a great experience, and it was very challenging as they were trying to figure out their dietary needs. There was one point where there were 5 foods that everybody in the family could eat, and that was it. And I had to work with that, right?
Wow.
And so I was making 10 different dishes so that everybody could have a balanced meal, because you living on only 5 foods doesn't work.
It doesn't give you a lot to work for.
Right. So anyway, I feel like I've been well challenged in that. And then that family, their job situation rearranged, and they moved away. So I needed to figure out what came next.
Okay.
And I just knew that I wanted to cook my food for people. And I had this long-term idea brewing in my head about wanting to sell at the farmer's market, specifically wanting to sell soup. I like making soup. I'm a good soup maker.
Yes. I can attest. It is delicious.
Thank you. And
I especially like your carrot bisque.
thank you. Me too. I've been into that one this year. But anyway, I did a little bit of research and looked into what it might cost to build a kitchen onto my house, a certified kitchen, and that was beyond my means at that time. And actually the local health department lady suggested that I look into getting a mobile license and starting a mobile kitchen. And that brewed with me for a little while and decided to do it.
Okay.
So,
That sounds tremendous, and I, for one, am grateful. Megan, you've had the opportunity to be on the inside. What would you like to tell the viewing audience from your personal experience?
Well, I think my favorite thing is when we're at the farmer's market or a festival, and I typically am the vendor. I take the order and pass it into the kitchen. Chelsea likes to plate the food. But when I find another customer who's discovered us just like I did, and they understand that our food is safe for them, not that food isn't safe, but anyone who's gone to like the moon and back trying to figure out what's not going well in their body, to find out that there's a restaurant that can cook for them is such a huge relief. And seeing their face light up and that trust factor when they go, no, but I need to know what's in it. Well, the thing is, we make the food. We sell the food, we make the food.
From scratch, completely.
Yeah. So, I can sit there and say, well, I know exactly what's in it. I put it together in a bowl yesterday. And that trust in the clients, I think that is huge. I really enjoy that. And I'm not sure how many other restaurants out there the staff would have that experience.
That sounds tremendous. Yeah. We've been talking about healthy food, but can the two of you give us a definition? What is healthy food?
Well, to me, I think that varies from person to person. There's so many different definitions of healthy. What we strive for is locally sourced, ideally clean. When I say clean, I mean less pesticides, herbicides. We do our very best to avoid using genetically modified foods. So to us, when we say real food, we mean, simple whole food. A carrot is a carrot and not a bunch of poison, right?
No chemicals.
Ingredients that you can pronounce. We always have both vegan options and local meat options. And as I said, for us, the healthy, pastured, properly treated animals are very important, both ethically and from a health standpoint, if you're a meat eater. And same thing with the veggies. When everything is super fresh from the local farms, there's more nutrition there. It's more delicious, and just there's more food there. And so to us, healthy doesn't mean low fat or any of these particular buzzwords, with the exception of that we are gluten-free. Our business is gluten-free. We don't think gluten is evil, but it's evil in our bodies, right? So we don't use gluten, and we're very specific in that our gluten-free products, they don't contain cornstarch, they don't contain potato starch, they don't contain a lot of these more processed ingredients, because to us, that's not real food. So our definition of healthy is that, whereas a lot of other folks might say, well, but I want low-fat food, or I want sugar-free food, or I want paleo, and we have some things that might fit in with those concepts, but ours is more of a general concept of eat good, real stuff.
Okay.
Definitely. For me, I think of it in two different directions. Obviously, there's the sourcing, the ingredient selection, which is everything for the kitchen. But like I said, I'm also here thinking as a farmer. It may be that in a few years, Chelsea's serving my chicken or my kale. We don't know yet where I'm going to go.
Your duck.
But I think of healthy food, like the key terms for me are nutrient dense, which definitely goes to the way it's produced, the way it's farmed. Healthier, happier animals eating their natural diet, whether it's grass or wild acorns, and having healthy soil, there will be more vitamins in your crops. So it is not just cleaner, it's not just fewer poisons, it literally is more vitamins than what you can get at the grocery store. So.
Okay. Now, in a previous program, Karen Bailey was on, because both of them have said things about the ingredients. And I want to really highlight that. Chelsea said you can pronounce them. You can say what is in the food. And Karen Bailey, I like what she said, that the front of the package is the advertisement. And when you flip the package over and it gives you the list of ingredients, it gives you all of the nutritious ingredients and proportions, that's what we need to be focusing on. If you see things you can't pronounce, that really is not a food you want to put in your mouth because it's doing stuff to your body. I've had others on other programs and talking to doctors in this area. They have found that by age 10, and recently, Michael Greger, who you know I really love, said that even before that, it's almost in womb, they are finding traces of heart disease. Our country is in trouble, and a lot of it is because of our food. We're killing ourselves by what we put in our mouths. That's another reason why I wanted to have Chelsea come and tell you about Chelsea's Real Food. There are good things out there, and the food is delicious. It is. Check it out. Last question that I'm going to ask. What is gluten-free? Why gluten-free?
So for me, I found growing up I had a lot of dietary issues, and when I was 26 years old, now we're dating it, right? Now you know I'm plenty older than that. That's all good. I figured out that cutting gluten from my diet made everything else work better for me. My seasonal allergies were better, my digestion was massively better, my energy was better, my sleep was better, all of it worked better in my body. Gluten is a protein that is found in wheat, barley, rye, spelt, plenty of grains. The typical bread you buy at the grocery store is full of gluten. Some bodies can handle it, other bodies cannot. Especially, it's interesting, they've had some research done lately. They've found that the wheat proteins have been changing over time with the genetic modification and the way we're breeding our wheats and whatnot. The gluten now is not the same as hundreds of years ago, and more people are having issues with it. So we avoid it. So today we will be making my gluten-free basic yeast dough. And I have all the different assortment of flours here, and we'll be mixing them all together. I'll tell you what we use, why we use it, and what properties it has. So this will be fun. The first flour we have here is organic brown rice flour. We'll have you dump that into the bowl, Patricia.
Alrighty.
I sourced this from Frankfurt Farms Foods. This is grown in Arkansas and milled in Pennsylvania. Next we have our tapioca. Some folks call it tapioca flour, some folks call it tapioca starch. This is the starchy element to our bread. And I sourced this from Bob's Red Mill.
And tapioca always makes me think about my Uncle John. It wasn't like this because he made tapioca pudding. Good stuff.
Yeah, I like tapioca pudding. Now we have gluten-free oats. I source these from Bob's Red Mill, and I buy the rolled oats and grind them up myself in the food processor. So I don't know if you can see, but this is it's not a fine flour. It provides some good texture and bulk to our dough. It's also, oats are good for fiber.
And it has a, how should I call that? A grindy type of...
Yeah, it's a little bit chunky.
Yeah.
So all of these flours have their own texture to the hand. The tapioca is like dust,
And I did wash my hands before touching the food.
Now we have our sweet brown rice flour. This can also be called glutinous rice, but it doesn't have gluten in it the way you would think wheat or rye or barley would. But when you cook this rice, it becomes sticky. And so it adds another textural element to our bread.
And Chelsea pre-measured everything before bringing it here.
I did. So I have my basic ratios. The starch to whole grain ingredients, the ratio in my bread it's about 2 to 5 or 6. So 2 parts starch to 5 to 6 parts whole grain,
Okay.
which is interesting to know. Now we have an organic corn flour. This is a finer grind than cornmeal. If you feel that with your hands, Patricia, you'll feel it's not like grits or anything. It's definitely more fine.
Yeah.
And we add the corn because it brings a nice lightness to our dough, to our bread, texturally in the finished product. Oftentimes gluten-free breads are very, very heavy, and this is a sturdy, solid food, but that corn does lighten it up just a little bit.
She really knows her dough, and final product, I've had the opportunity to taste, and it's delicious.
It is. It's its own thing, too. Now we have some organic golden flax meal,
And that
which
would
is
be
just ground
from-
flax
I was
seeds.
just going to say it's from flaxseed, right?
And this helps bind it together. So the flax also adds a good bit of protein to our dough, and just it's good for us. It's nutritional food, right? Now our very next ingredient. This is a variety of ingredients here. I have a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, some guar gum, and some xanthan gum. These
You put gum in bread?
I do. It's not like chewing gum. So the gums are what we use to pretend to be gluten, right? We don't have gluten in this bread, and that's what makes our bread hold together.
Oh, that's too cute.
So we need that binder, and the flax helps us a little bit, so I don't have to use quite as much of the gums as we would if we didn't use the flax.
Okay.
We could get away with using less if we put eggs in our dough also, but this is a vegan dough. I have so many of my customers, that's very important to them.
Yes.
So we don't.
Okay.
And so I use part guar and part xanthan. Guar gum is a seed grown in Africa, and they grind it up. And it gets very slimy and sticky when you get it wet, right? And it binds this together. Xanthan gum is it's a byproduct of corn, as far as I know. It's the best substitute for gluten. I use the least amount of it possible, but we need it for the texture.
Okay, that's amazing. And that is
It is.
very, very little.
Yeah, and if you remember, a good bit of this is salt and sugar as well.
Oh.
So the sugar is in there, just a small amount to feed the yeast. Oh, there's some yeast in there too, a little bit of baker's yeast.
Okay.
And the salt, if you ever made bread without salt, it's so boring. It just tastes flat and boring,
Okay.
even if it's risen. So we put some salt in there, and I use Himalayan salt, which it's not refined, so it still has the nutrients. It has these base minerals in it. So you can use Himalayan salt or real salt or any unrefined sea salt, and you still it has the minerals in it, which is nice. It's useful.
Yeah, I never knew about that.
Yeah, it actually has some nutritional value in that way.
And see how just it looked like a little bit was being added, but look how much that has made. And when you do this, you don't do it in small quantities, do you?
No, I don't. My base recipe is 4 times this.
4 times. You must have a super big bowl.
I do. I have a really big bowl.
Okay.
Once this is all mixed together, you'll see we'll proceed on to adding our liquid ingredients. But did you have any questions for me?
Well, I really would like to learn more about the dough and the salt and stuff, but we can do that off camera.
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything in the next 30 seconds or so that you would like to say for this segment? I guess I would just say you've got to taste her food. She has a wide variety, lots and lots of delicious things.
Oh, I can explain. This basic recipe I use to make all of my sandwich buns that we serve our sandwiches on. I also make a variety of different fancier dough. I have a roasted onion focaccia, so I take this same dough and I mix some caramelized roasted onions into it and a bunch of fresh black pepper and some olive oil. So it's really good. I also do these roasted vegetable focaccias, so it's kind of like a little pizza. So we take this base dough and we roll it out and put a whole bunch of different veggies, olive oil, lots of garlic on top. And that veggie blend, it varies each week based upon what's available at the farmer's market, is what I use. So this base dough has a lot of different applications. And then you'll see later on, I'll be showing you how to form my focaccia buns.
Okay.
And dealing with gluten-free dough takes a special touch. It's a whole different texture from regular gluten-free doughs. And then we'll also be forming a couple of breadsticks.
Okay.
I just recently started making these lovely crunchy breadsticks.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, they're really nice. And you can add garlic or caraway to them to flavor them up however you like, and it's nice. It's good.
That sounds good. You're making me hungry. Now that all the ingredients are mixed together, we're ready to put everything together.
Make our dough, yeah. So now we add our liquid ingredients. This is non-GMO canola oil. This is what I choose to use in my business. You could use any light oil. This is what I choose to use. If you wanted to use olive oil, you could. It would just add some flavor. It's a nice flavor, but we want this dough to be very multi-purpose, and so olive oil, for example, wouldn't lend itself very well to a sweet dough. But if you wanted to make savory dinner rolls or something, olive oil would be awesome. We add some water. And generally, at this point, I also add my sourdough culture, which I have a culture that I made myself using some of these same flours here, using both of the brown rice flours and the tapioca. I added a little bit of yeast and just let it sit around covered. That's how you can start a sourdough culture. So that adds a nice little bit of tanginess to the bread, and I find it seems to keep it fresher a little bit longer, and it's really delicious. But you can use just baker's yeast and have a perfectly lovely product. I started out the business just using baker's yeast, and I've added the sourdough culture in the last 6 months, and so, things evolve and get better.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. We'll need a little bit more water. The amount of water that we use varies a little bit depending on the humidity of the day and whatnot. And so we're looking for a certain texture in the bread. We'll go ahead and mix, just pour in some of that.
Can I go like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Don't want to waste
Add a little bit
anything.
more water here. There's a good chance we'll need all of this, but you can't take it away,
Now just a little bit at a time?
Yeah, add about half of it, I'd say.
Oh, half. Okay.
Yeah, dump it in.
Okay.
And so
I wanna figure out what
gluten-free
half
doughs are quite different from glutinous doughs in texture and process. So you see I have this mixer, this basically egg beater here, that we use to mix the dough, and it will end up being fairly wet. Now it's getting noisy here.
Let's tilt it so people can see.
Sure.
I'll hold it.
My gluten-free dough is quite a bit denser and stiffer than most of what you'll find in most recipes. I like it that way because it's something that we can work with on a table as opposed to having to pour it into a form. And part of the reason that ours is also denser, thicker, less wet, is because this is a vegan dough. Most recipes that you'll find for gluten-free doughs have plenty of eggs in them, or milk, or dry milk, or something. I can't eat dairy myself, and a lot of my customers are vegan. So every once in a while I'll do dinner rolls or something that contain egg, but my base recipe is vegan so that everybody can eat it. The most people possible, anyway. Yep.
I want to use the mixer.
You want to?
Yeah, of course. That's the fun part, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty fun. When you do it all the time,
Then it's not so much fun.
you're just used to it.
Yeah. Then it becomes
hold the wire up for you.
too routine.
My son always wants to help use the mixer too
Aww.
but then he'll forget and pull it out.
And everything goes flying.
We have a party.
I don't know if I would call that a party. That sounds like cleanup.
Yeah, it is.
Do you sing the Barney song?
No.
And this is something you can do at home, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only thing is it's better to get them from Chelsea because you notice that she didn't give us the exact amounts. Everything was pre-measured and mixed in. That definitely feels like it's getting stiff.
Yep. We definitely need more water to it. I can tell by looking at it.
Yeah.
Now, I've had folks ask me to make mixes that they could take my dough mixes home and make their own breads. And, I'm not opposed to doing that, but I haven't come up with what they would call a foolproof method, meaning that my dough needs shaped by hand. If you just sort of poured it into a muffin tin or something, it would work. It would be okay, but not the same. I don't have a way that I can have people at home be able to duplicate what I do, because it definitely takes some skill to shape the dough and to understand the right texture for it, what it's supposed to feel like and whatnot.
Your turn.
So that's why I haven't done that yet. I mean, made mixes.
Yeah, I understand.
But, I'm happy to teach people, but it's definitely a process. I'm teaching you.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind that you can contact Chelsea and ask her if you go to the farmer's market and find a particular product, or do you limit what you would teach the classes? What classes you would teach?
I've done very little class teaching. I've done a small amount, and usually people have specific types of items that they want to learn about, and so I kind of develop that based upon what people want to learn. I don't have any specific no's or yeses in mind,
Okay. But that may be a fun thing, is to have Chelsea come and to teach how to make stuff. I think it would be great.
It can be a fun thing.
So now what?
So now I'm going to get my hands real messy and kind of flatten it out a little bit. And we just need to let it sit and rise. You'll see it's pretty thick still. Most likely we're going to need to add some more water to it. As it sits, especially with those flax seeds and the oat flour, and even the corn and rice, it all soaks up a lot of liquid.
Yeah.
So you have to hydrate your dough, and the texture will change remarkably as it sits and hydrates and rises and whatnot. And so
Are we going to add more water
I
now?
could just add some water now, because I know that we'll need more. We
Does
want it
that
to
mean
be.
that you use the mixer again, or just by
We
hand?
can use the mixer, or we can just get our hands in there.
I'm glad
It's
it's
all
your
good.
hands.
Yeah, it feels kind of good. I'm just mixing it up. If you wanted to do something like this and you didn't have a mixer, I think that would be rather difficult. The gluten-free doughs really do require that much mixing. I would definitely recommend investing in some kind of mixer or beater or something for doing specifically gluten-free baking. If you're using some of those mixes that are more starchy and whatnot, it might not be quite as necessary, but for my recipes, that electric mixer is real important. You can see it's definitely
Looking good.
a wetter dough now. And once that hydrates, we may still decide we want to add a little bit more liquid to it. But now I just clean off my hands a little bit, go wash them up, and we will let that rise for a while. And we'll let you see. Once it's risen, this is not going to double in bulk like a glutinous dough. It's very different. It will rise up a little bit, and mostly we use our nose to tell if it's ready, and our hands, because the texture becomes different. It'll be a little bit airier and bubblier, but it'll have that nice yeasty smell, and it will have fully incorporated itself. You can see it's not quite lumpy, but a little bit, if you can see that. So we'll notice a difference once we come back to it.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, we'll get there soon.
All right, thank you. By TV magic, we are now ready to make our breadsticks and our dough. So,
Okay,
Chelsea?
so you notice we've put gloves on our hands, and gluten-free dough is wetter and stickier, and it just makes a mess sticking to your hands. So I found that shaping it with gloves is, that's how it works. We also grease up our gloves, and go ahead and just lotioning your entire hands, even the backs.
Even the backs?
Even the backs. You gotta grease it up good.
Good thing I have a teacher.
Yep, plenty. You might even want some more.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
promise you.
well greased.
I know. That's how it works. But,
Okay.
So you'll see we have our dough. This could be even a little wetter than it is, but it's fine. There's kind of a gradation of what works. There we go. So we're going to take a little block of dough.
I get one. That's
Yeah,
mine?
I'll
Okay.
give you a little block there.
Thank you.
We're going to make it kind of round. For our breadsticks, we're going to dip it in the corn flour and coat it. So this is just corn flour. You can add garlic, salt, whatever you might like to it. Just make sure it's nicely coated.
Did I get enough?
Right there is a
Right
bare
there.
spot.
No bare spots allowed.
It'll stick to the table, that's why.
Oh, okay.
The other thing,
And we washed the table before
did.
this.
And we're going to pretend this is a baking sheet, okay?
Okay.
Got to grease it up good too. We could also flour the pan. We're not going to right now. And now, to make our breadsticks, you're going to start it in your hands and get your little snake started up. And then this is just like playing with Play-Doh. You're going to make a snake. It takes a very delicate hand.
Watch
As
Chelsea,
you
not
see.
Patricia.
Yeah. So we make this nice little log, and I'm very particular about it, right?
Which means she's probably not going to like mine. What happened? Why?
You
Why?
have to be so delicate with this dough.
Oh, I
That's
flunk.
the thing.
I'm not good at
You know,
that
it'll
one.
still taste good.
Let me try another one.
Sure.
You fix mine,
Okay,
please. Thank
I'll
you.
fix it. I'll make it into a ball. This one will just be cornier.
That's okay.
It will. It's okay.
And it can have
sure
some
you
crunch.
roll
You
it.
said these are crunchy.
They are. I baked them till they're nice and crunchy. So you started out, you use very, very gentle pressure when dealing with this dough because it is a soft, soft dough. And what's so interesting and tricky about gluten-free baking is that whatever the shape of your dough is, when you bake it, you will see all of the imperfections. It rises, but not as much. And so if you have any funny looking bits on there, you will see them.
I think I flunk at breadsticks.
Well, you need to sneak it.
I need to
Make
snip
your
it. I'm
hands
trying.
Make your hands
Yeah, but I don't want to press it
So,
too hard.
I
See,
know.
she's the pro. She
So
knows
it's
how to
real
do
flat
it.
when
It's
you
really not that
It's part of
easy.
your hand.
This is much different than making snakes from
It
Play-Doh.
is. Try using the...
Oh, use the... I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
Yep,
I didn't catch that. Okay.
it helps. You're getting there.
I'm getting there?
See, this time's better.
Okay.
And then you
Phew, I'm
pick it up.
improving.
You are. Look at
Okay.
that. So then you pick it up so gently and place it on the pan.
I don't have an idea what goes into making these things.
Uh-huh. It's a process.
Don't look at that one. All right, you fix that one later. Let's move on to the other thing.
Sure. So we'll wear gloves here.
Well greased.
Yep.
Well greased.
We're going to forming our focaccia buns. Whenever we have sandwiches in our business,
I'll take from
we
you.
bake all of our own buns. And so we do a lot of dough shaping. Now in the business, I always use a scale to weigh everything out. Today we're free-forming it, right? So you start with a ball of dough, and then you work it in your hands around and around. You're trying to kind of make this tension in your hands to make this beautiful ball. See? You're doing that.
I'm doing that
You're
good.
getting there.
I'll make these guys breadsticks. I'll
Yeah.
stay away from them.
So we make this nice ball. Let's see. Not bad.
Not bad?
Not bad.
Not bad.
and then we're just going to flatten it. So
That part I can do.
Yep. You just make it into like a little dough burger, right?
Okay.
And then we'll lay it down gently on our pan. And often I'll find that I want to smash it down a little bit more.
Is that good?
Yeah,
Oh, good. I passed.
that works. Now, if I were going to sell these, I'd still want to make yours rounder, because that's what I'm like, right?
Okay. Now you know. Perfection over here.
But
But for me, it's
you
okay.
can, absolutely, you can have a sandwich on that, right?
Right. I
Absolutely.
wouldn't have any problem eating
No,
that.
you wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
It's going to be delicious. And then what we do is we spray these with water and let them rise.
Okay.
And then bake them in quite a hot oven. I start them at 425 degrees to 450 degrees. In my
Okay.
kitchen, it's a convection oven. In a home oven, they take longer.
Okay.
So in my purple kitchen, they take 12 minutes, 13 minutes
Oh,
to
that's
bake.
great.
In the home oven, they take more like half an hour. It's a
Okay.
huge difference.
Yeah.
And
More than
they
half.
rise and are delicious and lovely.
I think so. I've had them. I know.
So I'll show you. I'll take off my gloves here.
Do I take mine off too?
You can. Sure.
Finished project. TV magic.
There's some breadsticks that I baked this morning. You can see they're nice and brown. We baked them till they're crunchy. These are garlicky ones. So,
Be jealous. Be jealous.
so you've got one. And they're good. These ones actually could have baked a little bit longer. We were in a hurry to get here.
I think it's great.
But, yeah, they're tasty.
Right.
And here I have a bun. And you can see it's considerably larger than this. This piece of dough here, it felt about the same in my hand as how I weigh them out. But so they do rise. And if you want to try the dough,
We can split it.
okay.
Even Steven?
Sure.
Okay.
But you can see how it breaks. It holds itself together. It has a nice chew to it.
I gave you the bigger piece.
Okay, well, I'll share again. And this happens to be a garlicky dough today, too.
That's the commentary. Delicious. You gotta try Chelsea's real food. Thank you.
These are my everything focaccias. We've got a few big ones today.
I started buying Chelsea's food soon after she started making it. And I decided that I love it.
Right, that's why I was like,
It's easier for me as a single person to buy food from Chelsea than to waste food I don't cook myself. It's healthy, it's delicious, and I do it every week. She usually has baked goods, a couple of soups to choose from, or a main dish if she's been catering. I'll buy anything she cooks, because it's all good. Popsicles. After festivals, there's things like mousse. It's all good. I haven't met a food I don't like yet.
What are you making?
making a deluxe egg sandwich. So this is local pastured eggs scrambled up with some fresh onions, sweet peppers, a little bit of spinach. And I top it with salsa. My veggie burgers frying up in the pan. I make these patties myself from scratch, like pretty much everything. I stick them in the freezer and then fry them up to order.
One of the main things I like about Chelsea is all her food is gluten-free, and I'm very sensitive to gluten. I will eat vegan and vegetarian, but I like that there's some options that do have meat. But it's local meat, usually.
Always.
Always local meat. The other thing I like is that all the foods are local, to the best of her ability, and many of them are organic.
This week I made some lovely gluten-free pizzas for my folks. So this is my gluten-free crust, and it's got my vegan cheese, because a lot of my folks can't eat dairy, and King Family Farm chicken sausage, Cowdery's sweet peppers, and Sassafras Farms spinach. And it's really good. I don't tend to make a lot of really spicy things. I like spicy, and I always have my homemade hot sauce available for folks so they can spice it up themselves. This is my citrus and garlic broccoli. It's broccoli from Shade River Organic Farm down the road from my house. And it's got a whole bunch of fresh local garlic and citrus peel and fresh orange juice, olive oil, salt, and pepper. This is roasted butternut squash, pureed with some apple cider. That's all. It's really good.
People make orders for these foods?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have two different families that I cook for each week. They come and pick up food for me, Debbie being one of them. And mostly with these items, I just sort of decide what I feel like cooking each week, and they're real happy to buy it. So I roasted this big giant squash from the Chester Hill Produce Auction, mostly for my pumpkin and chocolate chip muffins. It was a big squash and it tastes really good. This is my soup of the day. It is lentil vegetable, fresh herbs. I use organic lentils, and I actually sprout them before I cook them. I do this because it makes them a lot more digestible. I do this with all of my beans when I have time for that reason. They're much less gassy in that way, so it makes for happier bellies.
Can you explain how to sprout lentils, please?
Yeah, it's very easy. You just soak them overnight, drain the water, cover them, and let them sit for, really it only takes about 6 hours or so, and they start to get this tiny little sprout on them. Then I rinse them and cook them as normal.
One of the reasons I started buying food from Chelsea is because 3 or so years ago, I made an effort to lose 30 pounds, which took my blood pressure down. And what I discovered is that if I continue to eat healthy and eat Chelsea's food, that I don't regain weight. And so I have not needed blood pressure medicine. All my numbers are good for cholesterol and sugar, and I feel good eating this. The diet taught me that it's important to eat 2 fruits and 2 vegetables every day, and if I didn't have Chelsea cooking them for me, it wouldn't be as easy to eat 2 fruits and 2 vegetables every day. If Chelsea's food is in the refrigerator, then I'm more likely to eat the good stuff instead of filling my belly with junk.
Hi! Welcome! I'm Chelsea Hindenach, owner of Chelsea's Real Food, and this is my kitchen. This is a full commercial kitchen on wheels, so that's a little different than most mobile kitchens or food trucks. I actually have 5 sinks in here. This is my large produce sink. This is my hand washing sink. And then down here I have my 3 dish sinks. So we have the wash sink, the rinse sink, and the sanitizer sink. Right now I have the sanitizer in a pot instead of in the sink, but it's okay. That's legal. I have a full commercial freezer, a 2-door refrigerator. This is my commercial convection oven and my cooling rack here. Along here we have our 4-burner range. This is my 2-bay steam table, and this is my salad station. This allows us to basically do anything we want in here. I don't have a fryer on purpose. This is Chelsea's Real Food, so we don't do French fries. But we make everything from scratch, as I've said before. It's as locally sourced as possible, and it's all gluten and dairy free. And this kitchen setup allows us to be very creative and work with the produce that we have and change up our menu, and it's a lot of fun. So if you'd like to see inside my oven, this is the black hole wherein all the good things happen. It's a big oven. It's a convection oven, which means it has a fan inside. It can get really, really hot and bake my bread, or it can go down to a very low temperature. This is where the kale chips happen, and the breads, and the tarts, and all the good things. So today's Friday, and each Friday I make my bread dough up ahead of time and form all my various types of breads and let them rise overnight and bake them off in the morning so that everything is super fresh and still warm when we get to the market. And these are the beginning of some onion buns. These are gluten-free and dairy-free, like everything that I do. And there's some black pepper and roasted onions in this dough, and I'll be doing this little well of onions in the middle. They're really good. So these are some tahini noodles I made. This is brown rice pasta with carrots and cabbage, plenty of garlic, broccoli, some onion, and some roasted tofu. This is a white bean with sausage soup. So it's organic white beans that I actually have sprouted. I try to sprout my beans whenever possible because it makes them more digestible. And King Family Farm sausage, local tomatoes from Sassafras Farms. Cabbage, I think, is from Rick Vest. Good stuff. This is the other soup I've made for the market this week, and it's a butternut squash with kale and cranberries. Plenty of roasted onions and some pumpkin seeds in there as well. It's local squash, local kale, and this is a totally vegan soup. Whenever I offer a meat soup, I always offer a vegan alternative. And if I only have one soup, it's always vegan. So that way, we get to feed everybody, kind of work towards the lowest common denominator. We have 2.5 acres here to work with, which is really nice. That's part of the reason we bought this property. Back here, these pile of weeds are the beginning of blueberry bushes. So we will have a whole bunch of blueberries eventually down the line that we can use for the business. Part of our long-term goal is to grow a good bit of the produce that we use for the business right here on the property. We have some animal friends here as well, which are not a part of the business at this point, but they're good friends. We have some chickens for eggs for our house, as well as the ducks. We get a few duck eggs, which are fantastic. We see Sissy and Mama, and in the background is Pickle, who was actually born here on the property this spring. He's very exciting. So we've got some pretty happy birds here generally, and we would like to in the future have enough that we can use our own eggs for the business. That requires another licensure, which is very doable, but we haven't done yet. Our long-term goals for the business are just to be as sustainable as possible. So we are working towards building a catering kitchen on this property eventually, and that will be built with a roof specifically designed for solar panels. So we're very excited about that possibility down the line. Commercial kitchens use a lot of electricity, and you can't get around that unless we go solar. So that's part of the plan, along with the raising of the food. But we will totally continue to support all of our other local farmers as well, because it's so important to support the local economy.